Good afternoon. Welcome to the December 11th, 2025 meeting of the City of Baltimore Planning Commission, meeting number 2082. I'm John Laria, the Commission Chair. Appreciate everybody being here today. We have a relatively brief agenda, but obviously it'll leave us time to take on a couple of issues that will, I'm sure, merit discussion and questions. But let's start with a roll call of commissioners. Mr. Tissot, please.
Robin Allen.
Present.
Honorable John Bullock.
Present.
Christine Griffin, I believe, is online.
Present.
Steve Horn.
Present.
Patty Jolene.
Present.
Doug McCoach.
Present.
Jane Lewis.
Present.
Eric Stevenson.
Present.
And John Laria.
Present. Thank you very much. Seated next to me is Tim Keene, our Planning Director and Executive Secretary of the Commission. Mr. Director. Commissioners, we have minutes to approve from the November 20th, 2025 meeting of the Commission. Is there a motion to approve those, please?
Move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now turn to consent agenda items. The first item are the CIP transfers, and as we have become accustomed to, we're going to ask the staff to come forward just to talk about those items that are noted in the transfers as not consistent with the CIP, which, as I always say for people who are here for the first time, is not as ominous as it sounds, but I think they do require a little more explanation than the items that are deemed to be fully consistent with the CIP. Please.
Good afternoon, Nelson Vasconcelos, Capital Planning Analyst for DOP.
You have the same list we do, so
Yeah,
you
we
can just go through
Yeah,
the
I do.
things.
So transfer 2 for DGS. That is, we're recommending approval. The funds are coming from a reserve account with excess funds. So it's a DGS account initially intended to relocate the city's fleet facility. Money was moved into that account from 2017 to 2019. The project is not for the original purpose. It's still being used for capital projects related to improving facilities for the city's fleet. So for that reason, we recommend approval.
Questions about this item? We'll just stop for questions in each one. Any questions? Hearing none. Okay, next, please, Nelson.
Transfer 3 for DPW. We are recommending approval. The funds are coming from excess appropriations and other urgent need projects, excuse me. So for that reason, all 3 of those from accounts are excess funds, and we're approving for that reason. Transfer 4, also DPW. The funds are excess appropriations related to the Ashburton Reservoir, so for that reason, we recommend approval. Transfer 5 for Rec and Parks. Maryland DNR adjusted the allocation for the grants for these 2 projects. They allocated an additional $100,000 for the Patterson Park Observatory, and that came from the improvements to Leon Day Park. So we are recommending approval because the transfer is correcting those allocations. Then moving on to transfer 9 for DOT. We got a little more background this morning, so it might not be on your printout. The transfer is coming from 2 reserve accounts with excess appropriations and 1 dedicated to concrete slab repairs. So the 1702 and 1716, this is per DOT this morning. They're program accounts that will receive an annual replenishment fund appropriation to continue with additional projects. For 1872, the planned usage of those funds were stalled due to environmental concerns. DOT indicates that all 3 accounts have tangential relationships to the property and remediation urgent need, and utilization of funds is not considered to have detrimental impact to the future of any project associated with these accounts. And for that reason, we approve. And I believe that's the last one. Yeah, that was the last one.
Can I ask, just because it caught my attention, I'm just curious, and I don't know who knows the answer to this, but concrete roadway slab repairs, I'm sure there's a technical engineering reason for this, but obviously most roads are macadam, and there are some from time to time you see concrete. is that a decision that's made by the engineers based upon the expected traffic? I don't know who knows the answer to that question. I'm just curious.
Yeah, that I'm not quite sure, but I don't work closely with DOT, but I can get that information for you.
Ms. Perinelli, do you happen to know the answer to that, since you're qualified in every respect, I think, at this point?
Generally speaking, the concrete is to take a heavier load. So where you have heavy truck traffic or heavy bus traffic, you're more likely to see a concrete roadway rather than asphalt.
Gotcha. Could I ask someone to just maybe inquire about the following? At Lombard and Calvert, the roadway, if you cross Lombard Street on the east side, is sort of it's like surfing. You know, it's got these giant kind of curves up and down. And I think it's because of the steam. I'm told it's because of the steam underneath, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been told also that would be resolved potentially, at least for the short area that it's there, that it affects it. If, for example, there were concrete there instead of macadam, which intuitively makes sense. I'm just wondering if if that's something that anybody has ever thought about.
We can raise that with
Would you
DOT.
just ask?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's, but.
That is beyond my.
No, and I
my
understand.
expertise,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we
there's
can
more of
ask.
a could you ask kind of question,
Yep,
because
that was Lombard and Calvert.
it's Lombard and Calvert. It's Lombard Lombard on the east side as you're approaching Calvert, right at the intersection.
Okay.
It happens to be near my office, and I've been walking carefully over that for a long time, and I just wonder, and I actually asked someone, and they said, well, if there were concrete. So we're not talking about turning the entire Lombard Street into concrete. It's just the area that is particularly affected.
Yep.
Pardon?
That'll be in the news quick.
Yeah.
Chairman asked.
Nope.
The crosswalk needs to be ADA compliant, so.
Yeah, it's a
Once
good.
it's touched, then that would trigger, so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the implications are. I just know that it's a highly traveled, sort of, not particularly, safe
Yeah,
situation.
we'll inquire about
Yeah,
that.
thank you very much.
Yep, certainly.
Okay. Okay, so are there any questions from the commission about the items that have been described? And I'm sorry, Ms. Perinelli, I meant to ask you one more question. Can you just give are we on track for, and what does that mean for the kind of paradigm shift in the way we're going to handle these transfers and the way, changes that we've talked about numerous times regarding CIP?
Yeah, so we had originally set out with the intention of making the changeover in how we do the capital transfers aligned with the Bureau of Accounting and Payroll Services implementing a pause in transfers, because that would facilitate changing from Planning Commission reviewing them after Board of Estimates to Planning Commission reviewing them before Board of Estimates. That has been delayed and doesn't have a timeline. And so in the interest of moving forward, we're going to be implementing that change in the new year. Because of the advance requirements to get on the Board of Estimates agenda, the change won't take place probably with the first meeting, because that deadline for Board of Estimates is already passed, but we're already working with the Comptroller's Office to operationalize that change and should have it very early in the new year.
That's great. The sort of corollary to that would be, I think the commission would like to know what happens in the relatively rare, maybe very rare case that the commission, for example, does not approve a CIP transfer. Does it not go to you don't have to answer this now, it's a question. Will it not go to the board, or will it simply go to the board with a negative recommendation from the commission?
It will go to the board with a negative recommendation. So you had asked these questions earlier, and we have consulted with the law department. So the Planning Commission's responsibility is to make a report to the Board of Estimates, and that report can be positive or negative. And then the Board of Estimates is taking action on the transfers. So it would proceed to the Board of Estimates with a negative recommendation.
Yeah, that's
in
what I
those
assume.
cases.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see how that goes, and we hope it doesn't happen very often, but
Yep.
it's good to know. Okay. All right, sorry, once again, any questions before we move on? Okay. Hearing none, I'll take just a voice vote on approving the CIP transfers. Is there a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, we're approved. Thank you. The next consent agenda item is the adoption of the Planning Commission schedule. I think we have formally adopted it through mid-year 26. You're really adopting on a 6-month rolling basis the second half of calendar
This adds
26.
July through December.
Right, July through December. That was sent out to the commission. I think Mr. Tiso asked if anybody had any questions or conflicts. Obviously, we're not going to change the schedule if they're just minor conflicts. But I don't know if you've heard anything, Mr. Tiso. Having heard none, then we certainly aren't going to change it. So is there a motion to adopt the Planning Commission schedule as Mr. Tiso sent that to the commission in advance of the meeting?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the schedule is adopted. Thank you. All right, we're moving to the regular agenda. Mr. Executive Secretary, if you would please call that for us.
Our first item tonight is a presentation on the Oliver Neighborhood Vision Plan Amendment. That is before the commission, first on the regular agenda today.
My reindeer ears keep falling off, so what my heart wants, I'm just gonna let it. Good afternoon, Commission. Cleared the first hurdle of not saying good morning. Wonderful. Many of you likely have not seen me in a while. My name is Imani Fox. I'm here to present the Oliver Neighborhood Vision Plan Amendment, along with Danielle Bila, our greening coordinator. The request in front of the commission today is to accept the amendment to the community managed plan, which is the Oliver Neighborhood Vision Plan. If it seems like Oliver's on the screen a lot, it is. I'll clarify which plans are fitting into this how. This is on behalf of the Historic Oliver Community Association. This plan is within the Eastern Planning District. And yeah, let's get at it. So this is the map as of 2023 of the community managed plans. The little red star there is not quite to scale, but it covers a general area of Oliver if you aren't familiar with it. It's directly east of Greenmount Cemetery. We'll get more into the boundaries afterwards. As you can tell, it's one of, there aren't a lot of community managed plans in the area. So the Oliver Neighborhood Vision Plan was the first for Oliver that wasn't an urban renewal plan. That was done last year. And to get more into the specific boundaries, it's bounded at the north by North Avenue, on the west side by Inzer Street, Biddle Street at the south, and North Broadway to the east. Before we get into this plan is looking at some of greening strategies as well as some stormwater stuff. And rather than read the Webster's dictionary definition of stormwater, I'm gonna have Danielle come up and give us some of the context around the greening and stormwater management within the neighborhood. I can operate the clicky if they need it.
Off of the slides.
Yeah, we need to go further.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Danielle Bilat. I am the landscape planner and greening coordinator for the Department of Planning. And I'm here to additionally support the Oliver Greening Plan amendment to their existing neighborhood vision plan.
So the Oliver Neighborhood Vision Plan, we have some new attendees who were not here last October. Hi, boss. So this was a community managed planning effort that was initiated by the Historic Oliver Community Association along with the People's Association of Oliver. Those are the two active community associations in that neighborhood statistical area. The consultant for that plan was Gensler, and that plan focused on the land use and redevelopment vision of the Oliver community. It did the regular plan things. It identified local assets. It suggested some changes in zoning and land use to reflect that redevelopment vision. And also it recommended the creation and acceptance of a greening plan to cover multiple sustainability projects of interest to the community. Why not just have a greening section of the plan? Because they realized they wanted to do a little more than what you would normally find in just like a neighborhood plan. They wanted to dig deep. They wanted to have a consultant that was more attuned to those issues. And so one of the items from their implementation matrix was to have a greening plan as an amendment to it. And to further be in compliance with community managed plan policy of the planning department. So what is the community managed plan policy? So this is, I believe, at least 2 planning directors old. It's the general plan for if a community wants to create their own plan, what the path is for the planning commission to accept that plan. We have some general requirements, and I'll dig more into the specifics as we get later in the presentation. The first is that they meet with DOP staff. to talk about boundaries, what's going into the plan, what they'll need. They have to create an advisory committee of which there has to be at least one planning department member on it. This one had two, because rather than have me, constantly asking Danielle, is this real greening thing? Sustainability, yes or no? It's just made more sense to have her on the committee as well. They have to have at least 3 public meetings with broad advance notice. You can't just give like 24 hours notice, come meet me in my basement, because that's weird and not a public meeting. And it also has to include an implementation chart. So that's big picture what goes into that policy. So this is their greening master plan. Main consultant was EnviroCollab along with Cityscape. The community got a grant from the Chesapeake Bay Trust to put together this plan, looking at as well as what greening strategies there are, how we can work together to have those improve some of the stormwater conditions existing in the neighborhood.
Yes, and some of the highlights from the map that you see up there, these are things that highlight both opportunities for various diverse greening and stormwater management infrastructures, but also highlight some of the issues that they face, like where some of the high point pollutants are, where they're infiltrating and where they're coming from. So it's kind of doing a dual thing.
So what's in this thing? So the greening plan focuses on green infrastructure to support overall neighborhood revitalization. It also identifies some pilot projects at key gateways throughout the neighborhood that can impact stormwater drainage, that can have some traffic calming effects, and also add to the neighborhood placemaking the community's interested in. I'm calling these sort of like blue greening strategies, and if that takes on, great. If not, that's okay, I tried. Some of the sections in the plan are the summary of the existing planning efforts, pretty much fitting this into how the other document around it, doing an inventory of some of the existing watershed characteristics. It has the different user and community input, both community members, associations within the area, as well as some of their institutional partners. It identifies the 4 pilot projects. It also contains recommendations for the community at large, as well as the key implementation matrix. And so, in sort of the 1-2 punch, the highlighted section at the bottom is from the existing implementation matrix of the vision plan. Man, I'm saying that word a lot. As to why this should be created. They didn't let any moss grow on them in terms of implementing the current plan. So we're already 14 months in, and they are bringing the greening master plan to a close, which I am pretty proud of them for. So the greening master plan has multiple tactics. They broke the different spaces in the neighborhood into greening typologies. That also includes information on the types of partnerships needed to implement and maintain them, as well as a way to classify the different landscapes in Oliver. So you have green streets, green places, open spaces, and green homes. And we're gonna take a walk through some of the lovely renderings they did to make this thing. So these are some of the suggestions they have for what they call like residential streets and neighborhood gateways. You'll see a lot of things related to stormwater planters, rainwater gardens, enhanced crosswalks throughout the community, so that are gonna both help with some of the runoff as well as make the streets feel safer to community members throughout them. What I particularly thought was a good touch was at the bottom. If I press the top button, that's the laser pointer, right?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Oh, what?
It's jumpy.
Sorry.
That seems cool.
I saw it briefly, and I'm still proud of myself for that. So at the bottom where they have those little like speedometer type things, where they look at what the maintenance partners were, who do we need to maintain this, what's it gonna cost, and what the scale of it is to help differentiate what we're trying to do in each intervention, what the scale of it is in terms of manpower to get it going, whether it's gonna be expensive to get done, and whether this is a wide scale or just a site, like a locally based project. I also I said it wasn't entirely focused on gardens and lots, but they do have some in there, like what they call passive and holding landscapes. There are suggestions on what can be done in terms of the types of landscaping and tree plantings within those. And then for commercial properties, they have strategies for what they'd like to see at the more intense commercial uses within the community, as well as what can be done at private homes and properties. It's not just for the big commercial redevelopment sites or for intersections. It's, hey, I have a downspout in front. I want to have a rain barrel to wash my car with, to water my plants with. You're not supposed to drink it? Question mark? No, don't do that. But you can do other things with the water there. Also in terms of what you can do with landscaping on your personal property. So there's a variety of ways for multiple actors to use this plan to make decisions about what they're doing with their property. This is just their timeline. They didn't just come up with these. These are talented consultants, but they didn't just come up with stuff. There was a very intensive outreach process where they went out and spoke to the community about how you want greening to be used, what makes sense for you at each site, what is your input on this, if you want to optimize this, what else do you want as part of this infrastructure. So I believe there were 3 meetings / charrettes and at least 3 site visits. I know I went on 2, you went on more than I did. I think I was out of town for one.
At least,
Yeah, at least 3. So they did a good job of both reaching out to the community and getting boots on the ground to go look at the sites that they were recommending interventions and pilot projects at. So these are the sites they suggested for pilot projects to implement some of these designs. They focused on some of the main gateways to the neighborhood. So going north and south along Harford, and then one at I believe that's Oliver and Broadway, which is another main intersection in the neighborhood. And we'll go a little bit more in depth into each of these pilot strategies. So the first is looking at Preston Street and Harford Avenue. This is a type of corridor improvement. They have some precedent images of what they'd like to see, as well as some schematic suggestions for how you can work with existing infrastructure, where we can leverage some new plantings and stormwater gardens, and as well as different ways that these strategies can be used to manage litter, which is also of concern to the community. At our second site, and this is the one that I think is pretty interesting, is the Oliver Median Forest. If you're used to driving along Harford Ave, you may have seen the little sign that says Oliver, and they have like a triangle-shaped median. It's little, but this really makes use of some existing right-of-way space you already have, has a micro forest. It's not gonna be the 100-acre woods, but we can do a lot of really good stuff in here with some different native plantings, really getting creative with the canopy, as well as just the local little mini ecosystem there.
And with both of these, they are just on 2 different sides of Preston Street. So these are 2 different sites in terms of applications for grants and everything and for function, but they are literally just on the north and south side of Preston Street. And for Oliver specifically, it sits it has 2 watersheds in it. So it has both the Jones Falls watershed and the Baltimore Harbor watershed. It kind of splits it down the middle. Roughly, one has about 8 acres and one has about 18 acres for proportion-wise, with the Baltimore Harbor watershed being the larger of the 2. And so it is unique, or it uniquely experiences a lot of micro contour grade stormwater management issues. So like right here along the street, it happens to slope pretty drastically just in the green spaces that are there, which is why a lot of their green spaces are geared towards stormwater management, because they have that micro, more intense contour issues.
We also have this northern quarter looking at Harford and North Avenue. This is the one that I think has the biggest potential in terms of a traffic calming effect, because that is an intersection. So they have some suggestions for looking at how we can work with both bump outs and rain gardens to both manage that corner there in terms of planting, having some bus stop amenities, as well as a way to just leverage the public art that's at that corner. There's a pretty cool median that I think people miss because they are whipping by just too fast in general. So it's a way to slow people down, make better use of the art and the landscaping that's there through the strategy. The fourth is at the Oliver Street and Broadway improvements, looking at making use of the lovely tree line median that already is Broadway. How can we kind of pump up the volume on what's already there, and also implement these stormwater strategies? Now, I'm imagining in some of your brains the question is cooking, does DOT, DPW know you want to do this? The answer is yes. They were also part of a lot of the steering committee meetings. We made a point of suggesting that they reach out to them early in the design process, so that nothing was going to be in this document that they haven't seen already, and that nothing was going to be proposed that was a non-starter.
I'm sorry, does know you want to do this the same as support it?
Yes, I think they're aware of it. They've made comments on the design so that when it goes forward for what they're pursuing grant funding, that they're all willing to be a partner in these.
Okay.
So this is how it all comes together. So we have our gateway strategies, as well as the highlighting of different opportunities to implement the greening typologies throughout the neighborhood together in this greening master plan. Beautiful. So now we get back to the paperwork of it all, which is its adherence to the community managed plan policy. Yes, they have met with our staff to discuss the nature of the plans. Yes, there was an advisory committee. Yes, there were meetings. Yes, they provided us documentation of meeting notifications. Yes, they met with stakeholders. They met a lot with stakeholders. We made sure that they did. And we also have some requirements of the document. It is consistent with both the master plan and other city policies, as well as some DPW policies. It includes the standard parts of the document, of a planning document, and it kind of doubles down on that because it's an amendment to a plan that's already done that. So you kind of have like a, not quite a turducken scenario, but it's like a plan within a plan. It does have a detailed implementation chart, and it is in a well-designed and easy-to-read format. So we believe this to be in compliance with our community managed plan policy. We recommend acceptance as it is in line with our policy as well with the equity goals of the department.
Yes, and I'll give a quick, brief statement on adopted neighborhood plans and the greening portions that they all kind of contain for context as well, which might be helpful. So I've looked through almost all of the community managed but approved plans and for what they contain as far as greening or any type of climate mitigation strategies within them. And they range kind of drastically. Some have 2 to 4 pages that are kind of vague, that just identify, we would like to see things like increased tree plantings and more park spaces, to those that are very thoroughly well-developed and go into very much detail for specific locations, pilot case studies and everything. And this, I would put more of a gold star on it in comparison to greening portions in different neighborhood plans. And for a little bit of context, Baltimore City has a goal of 40% canopy coverage. And the Oliver neighborhood currently is 203rd out of 277 neighborhoods as far as tree canopy coverage with the last available data. So they are trying to work to get up there. And the plan, I believe, identifies that it's in its existing capacity with looking at where development can occur, so not including sites that are currently vacant, it can still hold an additional about 1,500 trees in there. And so that's what this is definitely working towards. And even though Oliver has about a 21% pervious surface coverage at this point, the majority is still lawn. And so they're really looking at more biodiverse strategies for a range of different infrastructures. And I think, no, that's really it. Those are the most important points.
So, open for questions.
Thank you. Let's start with Commissioner Horn, please.
Very impressive plan. I just have a question regarding your plan for maintenance. You had a section in there, and I see there's certain responsibilities where the public entity would take responsibility, and I didn't know in terms of those agreements. Is that short term? Is it longer term? I was a bit confused in some areas. It said that community would have to long term take responsibility. And it was an idea of creating a fund where you could actually pay residents to adopt the lots. And so I want to update on that. I just didn't know if that fund would be created, but just sort of what's the short-term and long-term maintenance strategy for some of the projects that you had?
So for the community managed spaces, that is an idea for how they could do long-term maintenance of the community adopted spaces. They currently have like green teams that do this on a volunteer basis. That was an idea about how to formalize that moving forward in terms of if we're going to take on, if we as the Oliver community are taking on long-term maintenance of this space, we would need to create something more formal than Miss Diane rounding people up and going out on the second Saturday morning to formalize that. In terms of the pilot projects, since these are more in the design phase, that was more identifying who they would want the maintenance partner to be, and many formal agreements would coming later on.
I also believe, as far as I can tell, that the pilot projects, while are more immediately feasible, they also range in different typologies so that they can get practice, whatever the green team is that is doing this maintenance, to have 4 different typologies to work on with maintenance before they would bite off too much, right? So if this is a community managed greening infrastructure moving forward, I think that's a really, really good idea to select 4 different pilot projects of 4 different typologies to work to see what is most effective and what is successful and what might have some challenges with it.
I guess the question is, do you foresee it being a challenge in terms of getting agreements for the city to maintain during the pilot projects or anything like that? I know you're just starting the agreements, but do you foresee that being any challenge?
I mean, for the right-of-way projects,
right-of-way,
for the
yes.
right-of-way stuff, the city would have to agree upfront to be the partner, otherwise the application wouldn't really go anywhere. So I don't think anything would get started where that we wouldn't agree to be a partner. And since there's been city involvement in selecting the pilot projects, I think what's been put forward are things that we would not have an issue getting partnerships to move forward on.
And some of them can be used for additional capacity as far as like MS4 points, right, for DPW. And so some of these can contribute to broader goals with the city as well. So that's why some of the right-of-way ones might potentially be easier with that.
Other questions? If not, so I've got a couple of questions. Let me start by saying that this is the most extraordinarily detailed and sophisticated greening plan I have ever seen. And it's not like I've seen none. I mean, I've seen enough. So this is
Like 25. Yeah.
125 pages of, it's just incredibly sophisticated. And I don't know who I saw, and I want to come back to it in a minute, I saw that Gensler did the original,
Yes.
the plan, the master plan. Do you know who was involved in?
Yeah. So this was EnviroCollab and Cityscape Engineering worked together on this one.
And did Oliver, I mean, Oliver is an extraordinary neighborhood with incredible leadership, and I mean, it's a really amazing city neighborhood. Did they go out and get the resources? I know that you said it was a grant from the Chesapeake Bay Trust for this.
Yeah.
Was there also funding obtained for the original plan that was approved before I got here in 2024?
Yeah, I believe that one they got funded at least in part with a community catalyst grant from DHCD.
From city DHCD?
Yes.
In part, meaning there were other sources?
Yes, because knowing the initial grant amount and what it ended up costing, I think there was a gap that they either fundraised to cover or found another grant to cover. I don't know the source of like the
Yeah.
second part of that.
Do you have some sense of what it cost to do the original plan?
I think it started at like a $60,000 grant, $50K around there.
And ended up somewhere higher?
I think it ended up at 60, but I'm not positive.
And Gensler did that as a market rate, fee for service kind of?
I was not part of the contract negotiation. They they were paid to make the plan.
Okay. And then do you know, same sort of questions for this greening plan? That was Chesapeake Bay Trust funded the entirety with a grant? Do you know?
They're the only ones identified, I believe, in the document as a funder. And I know that the watershed assistant grants are typically for planning purposes, I believe, up to $75K.
Yeah.
So that was
So
probably
hopefully
entirely
that's
funded this
helpful.
one.
So, all right, let's zoom out for a second and just remind everybody that it's a community managed plan that is here for acceptance. And I've asked this question before as still a relatively new commissioner, which is city plans imply some sort of city commitment to implementation, but a community managed plan, when we accept it, remind us, what is the consequence of the commission accepting a community managed plan?
As a consequence, it is the Plan Commission accepting the work that's gone into creating a document as, in my understanding, similar to what we would do if we were creating a neighborhood plan, that they put in the appropriate amount of work to create a document reflective of community desires, inclusive of community engagement, as well as the final work product. Does it formally commit any city resources since it is a community managed plan? No, but since you have city involvement on the steering committee and in plans like this one in regular meetings throughout about which pilot projects are going to be selected, what's being talked about in the plan. It starts about identifying, strengthening city partnerships to eventually move forward on that work, even if it's not a city project, if they're continuing to, and they have already applied to at least one grant to implement one of the pilot projects. So it's the city recognizing the work that's gone into it, acknowledging that this is what they're going to be moving forward and doing. And so when we get further down the implementation pipeline, nothing's new, even if there's not a financial ask of the city. It's that they agree that this is work that can and should be done. That answers your question.
Yeah, well, it starts to. So there's no, at the moment, there's no financial commitment or budget or by anybody, as far as you know, to
there's
the
only-
implementation of either the original plan or the greening supplement?
Yeah, the greening plan had funding to take the projects to, I think, 30% design?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, but nothing past that. That's why the community's pursuing other additional grant funding.
And how many other, if someone knows, how many other community, I know we have the chart or the map, but how many other community-managed, commission-accepted plans are there-ish, if we don't know exactly?
Don't know. I'd say one of the other big community managed plans the commission sees regularly is the Johnson Square Vision Plan.
Which is just next door,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
And are they typically this robust, these two documents?
The recent ones, I think, have been this robust. There's some older ones that aren't as detailed. I think the further back you go into the early 2000s is when you might start to see like, oh, this is a little bit different. I'll
Yeah.
say the more recent community managed plans have been, I think, similar to this in terms of detail.
I will say, though, this is, to your point, definitely one of the ones with a very robust and thorough greening portion to their neighborhood plan.
Yeah. So is the idea that this plan is sort of a menu of things with, I mean, there's maybe a little bit of prioritization, because does the pilots imply priority, or do they imply just more feasible, or what's the meaning of pilot?
I think what the pilots is they picked different types of projects where if we're going to start something and we're going to make a big impact at a gateway, one of these 4 projects is going to work. If they can do all 4 of them, I will personally give them a gold star, and I don't care if I'm playing favorites in my planning district. But even I think one of them would be impactful as a gateway. So I agree with your point that it is looking at a menu of options, because when you look more into sort of what they have with the green typologies, there's multiple recommendations per category to where it's not just one type of strategy per shared street or event space or private property. It's different things that can be done to improve each typology.
And there's roughly about 55 adopted
Thank you.
neighborhood plans. That doesn't include Inspire or other ones, just for the neighborhood plans,
Right,
roughly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, okay. Well, I guess what I'm struggling with, first of all, I mean, you certainly will have my support. I can't speak for the others to approve this plan. It's an extraordinary plan. It's a great neighborhood. You've done incredible work. I just have a hard time, and people probably know where I'm going with this, like, this is 60 acres, is according to the original plan, because I went back and read it. The city has 92 square miles. I think it's 640 acres a square mile, so we have 58,880 acres, according to my math. And we've done this for 60 acres because the community had the drive and the capacity and the leadership to go out and get the money from grantees to develop this plan. That's why? I mean, that's how we got to where we got.
Yeah, that's why they wanted to take on the plan, to give a little bit more context about why Oliver felt so strongly about it. If you're familiar with the Impact Investment Area Program,
Sure.
there's one to the north, south, and east of them. To the west is the cemetery, which respectfully nothing's happening there.
Yeah.
But so there's an implementation strategy for each of those. There's a lot of city involvement all around them, and then they were sort of in the middle of that donut to where if you didn't want any of the enhanced regulation or attentions going into the impact investment areas, they felt like they were getting a lot of like leftover style development.
Yeah.
So they wanted to put forth a strong vision, since they weren't one of those top priority areas, at least as far as the impact investment area program went, to say this is our vision. We also have a redevelopment vision, even if we're not one of these specific neighborhoods. So that's a little bit more context there, if that helps.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, like I said, I think this is a discussion that we're having. I know the director and I have talked about this, and we've talked about it here. And in no way am I'm not the least bit critical or skeptical about Oliver having done this plan. It's a great plan, and I said congratulations to everybody for doing it. I am concerned about plans where it's not clear how they're going to get paid for. I guess in a way, a community managed plan makes me feel oddly less concerned about that, because the rubric is that a community managed plan does not imply any sort of city financial commitment. So I assume that the community understands
Yeah.
that.
Understands and does not like, but decided to do their own plan anyway. Yes.
Right. I'm trying to wrestle with the question of sort of expectation management and how we decide who gets this magnificent set of 2 documents for these 60 acres versus other places that do or don't get them, and what the sort of, the sort of difference maker is, why here and not there, and no one, I mean, certainly I'll speak for myself, I don't want to take one thing away from Oliver's extraordinary leadership and their entrepreneurial spirit and their ability to organize and get the money and get this thing and manage it. And I read both plans. It's extraordinary stuff. But as a question of equity, as a question of sort of why here and not there, I just think there are a lot of questions there that have to be answered with respect to sort of how we do these plans and where we do them and how deep they are and so on. So I think that's kind of, I don't know if, Mr. Director, if you have anything you want to say about that.
First of all, just to congratulate again Amani. She and I had a chance to talk about this before today and appreciate her work and obviously the skill that she brought to it, that she demonstrated today. But we were talking about the same thing. She had mentioned the policy that goes back maybe 15 or so years, maybe a little longer than that, where these community managed plans were outlined within a suite of plans the city would do relative to different scales, neighborhoods, corridors, districts of the city. And I think this is something that we have to consider as a commission and as a department relative to how are we successful as a city following through on the plans that we create. I mean, that's so we all agree and think it's a good time to be looking at that. And it's part of why I was interested in speaking to the commission, perhaps in January, about the approach to the work, because I think this is fundamental to it. As you said, Mr. Chair, this is an incredibly well-done plan, and the neighborhood has instigated it and done a wonderful job. It's in no way a suggestion that it isn't. It's just that we have to be careful about how we do this work so that we're ensuring people are satisfied by their involvement and the plans that we create and have a belief that we can build the city that we're envisioning.
Yeah.
May I add, Mr. Chair?
Of course.
Of course, I agree with the sentiment of wanting to do better on all fronts and wanting to deliver more for our communities. But in terms of, deciding, I want to be careful about the use of the word "we" here, because in terms of deciding where we do these plans, we don't get to decide because we didn't do this plan. And when we discuss how we're going to do this work as a city, I think we have to, it's absolutely not a criticism of the plan. If anything, it's a look in the mirror. And we have to be honest about the fact that these plans have come to be out of necessity from communities who weren't otherwise being addressed. And I appreciate, Mr. Chair, you acknowledging the incredible amount of resources that the community has had to, marshal in order to accomplish this. So there are, I think, equity, issues around these plans, who gets one, who doesn't, what gets implemented and what doesn't. But it's, the response has to be that, we're doing these things everywhere.
Yeah, well, thanks. I welcome, I wasn't here when the original plan was approved. I said I did go back and look at it because this is an amendment to it. So others of you were here, and welcome any comments or observations either about the plan, of course, or about my general comments. And we don't have to get into this in detail today. I think it's just continuing for me to frame this issue with a new director who's trying to sort out his own sense of priorities about how the city ought to plan. But if other commissioners have anything to reflect either in support of or in conflict with what I've said, I'd be happy to hear it.
And if I could, I'm sorry, not to dominate, but just to clarify, I got a little bit emotionally distracted on my point because this issue is near and dear to me. But to answer your initial question of what is this and what is it for, I think the most direct answer to that is it's a tool to get private funding. And to my previous comments, where public funding doesn't exist, communities this is a requirement in a lot of cases for communities to get private funding, so that's why the tool's in the box.
Also, some state grants will ask if it's in alliance with like a local plan, so like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any doubt, I'm sorry, Doug, but I don't have any doubt that if you took these two plans and brought them to a funder, you're not assured to get support, but it's pretty impressive. And people, I think funders would say, wow, Gensler do the first one and just, these are really extraordinary documents. And if the purpose is principally to meet the requirement, I mean, it's a little unfair to say simply to meet the requirement, but in part to meet a requirement for grantors, whether they're public or private, that's not illegitimate. It probably undersells the importance of the plan, right? But beyond that, to sort of have the plan, have the pride in having the plan, I mean, there's a lot of tangible and intangible benefits to this.
Yeah, Oliver's not messing around.
Right, that's right. That's a good way of saying it. They've taken this very seriously, and it does provide a roadmap. Anyway, yeah, Mr. McCoach.
I was really appreciating the plan. I do think it's a well-authored plan, and I think what we can provide as a department, as a city, in a base plan is I think generally pretty robust. And when a community decides under their own initiative to go farther, that should be applauded. One of the things that I saw up on the slide, though, was a note about the need to replace impervious paving with new pervious paving, which is a capital cost. And then I was looking, that's on page 40, there's this big section on land cover and stormwater conveyance. And though I feel an obligation to point this out, there's a beautiful map on page 41. It's orange, pretty bold. Got to go here, guys. It's showing the pervious and impervious area. My issue is that about 2 months ago, we passed regulations that would reduce the amount of side yards and increase the lot coverage. And I find myself, on one hand, we have a plan saying get rid of impervious surfaces to reduce runoff. And then this body and then city council approves an action to increase pervious area, which seems to be kind of contradictory, maybe, perhaps. And so I found myself wondering if this plan, in particular this beautiful orange map, which says we've got 79% impervious area, I don't think that's realistic. And I think that where we're on a track to headed, when we did the math at the hearing, was 97% lot coverage. And so this is obsolete based on the recently passed legislation. Now, I don't think this stands in the way of approving this plan, but I think that there's some, I don't know, I think we're sort of maybe in a little bit of denial about the impact of the legislation, but then also the challenge facing our communities. And so I don't want to put you on the spot, but what do you think?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
She wrote notes.
Yes. I actually did have notes about this, so thank you very much for bringing this up. Previously, when the bulk and yard change requirement legislation was brought up before Planning Commission, I did work with the LUD staff on that to do the research and to start to bring up the ideas behind like a green area ratio requirement, what might that look like? And it was highlighted that although R4 through R6 take up way more in terms of land area across the city, R7 and R8 were going to be doubly impacted by the reduction of yard standards in there. And Oliver is vastly R8.
Yeah.
Like, if I had to estimate, we're talking 80-90% R8 development for zoning. And that does mean that they are at potentially an increased disadvantage to have reductions in green space that is both local and walkable, because I've been working with actually a team and we've been doing a bunch of GIS analysis, and most of Oliver is 10, 20 plus minutes from a defined neighborhood park space via AICP standards. And so what does green space look across the city might mean something different in R7 and R8 versus R6 versus R4, all different things. And so I really appreciate the commission bringing this up and highlighting the bigger picture potential impacts behind all of this and what our approach to greening strategies might be moving forward and the impacts of proposed legislation.
I suspect that as plans continue with different communities and different neighborhoods, we'll see this over and over again. Yeah.
Thanks. Commissioner Horn, you had something?
Yeah, I just want to say, just from a historical perspective about plans and plans that were done right to kind of accelerate and really be used as a community engagement plan. I was thinking the Southwest Partnership Plan and how that has really created a momentum in that particular area. I think about the Upton Plan and how that plan has really engaged community. When Bishop Hickman came in and talked about how his plan was going to galvanize some large-scale development. And so I think it's a sense of pride, but I also think it's a community engagement tool which creates a common agenda with the neighborhood to really revitalize it. And it's usually done by an anchor institution that's trusted, and it does help them fundraise. For Southwest Partnership, I think it got Goldsecker Foundation to really go into that particular neighborhood. And so that's just my sort of perspective, that it's one of the tools in the toolbox where when neighborhoods have been ignored, they kind of use this as a mechanism to engage stakeholders to invest in their community. Some work, some don't.
Yeah. No, thanks for that perspective. Okay, other questions or comments from the commission? Okay. Well, if not, I think a motion to accept the plan is in order. That's the staff's recommendation. Is there a motion to accept the plan?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Again, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Tissot?
Robin Allen,
Approve.
John Bullock,
Approve.
Christine Griffin,
Approve.
Eve Horn,
Approve.
Claudia Jolin,
Approve.
Doug McCoach,
Approve.
Jane Lewis,
Approve.
Eric Stevenson,
Approve.
John Laria.
Approve. Thank you both very much, and thanks to, I should have asked if there was anybody here. I didn't see, was there anybody from Oliver who wanted to be heard? I'm very sorry.
Unfortunately, they could not make it
Yeah.
today, but I get to now send the fun emails. And also, I apologize for the quality of the snowflakes I put on the table. I forgot how to do that. So sorry.
We were told that those were Austin's, that Austin did those.
Austin's were better than mine. His
Oh.
were better. He saved his good ones.
But we can blame Austin.
Abstract winter scene.
Thank you very much. It's really helpful, and please send our congratulations and admiration to the community for this work. It's really impressive.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Executive Secretary, the next item, please.
We're moving to item number 7 here, City Council Bill number 25-0103. This is a zoning case, conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to 3 dwelling units in the R8 zoning district. This is at 1224 West Lafayette Avenue.
We've heard this before, have we not?
Yes, we have.
So are we planning, I don't know that I've ever seen one where we've come back in this way. Are we having Ms. Tisa, the full presentation again, or are we sort of picking up where we left off?
This is a continuation, so it's up to the commission. If anybody missed things and would like the full show, we can oblige. If not, you can carry on where you left off as the commission wishes.
I don't know exactly who was there. Why don't you do the presentation? It's not going to take very long, and I think it'll give everybody the benefit.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Justin Walker, DOP, here for City Council Bill 25-103. That's regarding the conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling to 3 dwelling units in the R8 zoning district at 1224 West Lafayette Avenue. As mentioned, this was heard at the prior hearing, but there were a few community concerns that the applicant is now here today to address those. And this is in the Western Planning District in the Sandtown, Winchester neighborhood. Taking a look at it on the map there on the west side of the city. And we have our aerial view here. It is a middle of the row house. And dropping down to the street view of the 3-story structure there. I'll note that the applicant has proposed one single bedroom of 700 square feet and two bedrooms of 1,000 square feet. The reason why this is here today is Section 9701 of the code requires conversions in R7 and R8 to be approved as conditional use ordinances by the mayor and city council. We are here today solely on the conditional use. There is no parking requirement for this property, and it does meet the requirements for the minimum lot area for 3 units, which have been further reduced, but even at the time of the application, this meets the requirements. Now it meets it by a greater degree. And again, as reflected in the staff report, staff believes this property does meet the approval standards of Section 5406. We don't believe that a multifamily dwelling would be more impactful at this site than in any other similarly zoned location. Regarding the equity and notification, the proposal did receive a letter of support from the Lafayette Square Community Development Corporation, and notice was provided via the required on-site posting as well as the Gov delivery system. And staff recommendation is to adopt findings and approve.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff to begin with? I know we have folks here who want to speak. Questions of staff to begin with? We can always come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have folks here who wish to be heard. Okay, so I assume, ma'am, you were here the last time, I believe, and you had some questions and concerns. Why don't you come up and reiterate those? And I believe you must be the applicant, sir? Okay, so stand by.
We have one online.
And one online, sorry. We'll get to that. Ma'am, I think most of us did hear your concerns. I certainly don't want to cut you short, but if you could just kind of reiterate
Very
what your
quickly?
concerns were. Well, no, I'm not trying to rush you, but just, I think we have heard them, but I think you should, for the record, just give us a summary of what your
Well, this is
concerns are.
David fighting Goliath. And this isn't a developer, this is a destroyer. You come in and you take the house and you break it into 3 apartments. I have to, first of all, hello, here I am again. Hi, sorry. I don't have a 125-page declaration of why this shouldn't happen. I wish I did. Maybe I would get something. To build Baltimore as a diverse, sustainable, really gets me, and thriving city of neighborhoods, and as an economic and cultural driver for the region. Hello. The only houses that are sustainable in that block are the houses that are owned by the people that live in them, not the apartments. They are transient. They don't care. When they leave their trash in the alley in front of the house. Then it's up to the people who do live in the neighborhood who have to call and have everything cleaned up again for the next group to come in. And now, oh my God, oh, we don't have to, your life is even easier. You don't have to provide parking. Parking. I have to park by 3 o'clock in the afternoon on my side of the street to have a parking place. It's crazy. They're not coming in to develop the neighborhood. They're coming in to develop the house, to make whatever money they're making on very sloppy construction, using the cheapest that they can, so that when people do come in, mess up the place, they bring in the cheap again and redo it. There is not one apartment building on that street that is fully occupied ever. Ever. 3 on that side of the street without 1224 have maybe 1 or 2 people in each one of the buildings. There is no sustainment. There is destruction. We are in a food desert. Who's coming into this neighborhood? Who's coming in? Unless you have a car. And unless nobody's coming in to make a difference except the people who bought the houses that live there that are trying to make a difference. These people don't care. All they care about is the money. And let's quit messing around with that. It's all about the money. It's not about community involvement. These guys come in, develop, and leave. I don't know anybody on that side of the street who's the developer or the manager that I can get a hold of to call and say, hey, you guys got people in there that are just really a mess. Can you do something about it? There is not one in this that I went to real property. No phone number. 5 different developers. And somebody told me last month, oh, well, they're not out of New York. Yes, they are. It's a New York address on this thing, on real property. Now, maybe the manager lives, went to Payson Street, went to look at 1915 Payson Street for the management or development. That's a row house in a neighborhood. I guess that's okay. I guess I can go and get an LLC in my house and be a developer. Really?
Ma'am, can I ask you to start to conclude your comments?
That's okay. And my taxes are going up. You have raised my taxes. So what they've done is they've come in, destroying my neighborhood, raising my taxes. I have nowhere to park, and the trash is horrendous. And go and look in the backyards. Backyards, rat infested, high grass. Nobody's cleaning anything up. So yeah, you go right ahead and let him come in.
Yeah.
Let him come in and develop. But I'll be watching. Because I am very, very angry. Yes, Mr. Loria, I'm leaving. But you know what? I may be back.
You're welcome anytime. And this is my fault for not asking you up front, just for your name, for the record.
My name is Catherine Morell. I have lived in my house since 1990. My family has owned it since 1970. I've watched what developers do. I'm history. I am history. And it's repeating itself. And how's your father?
Thank you, Ms. Morell.
Okay.
We appreciate it. Okay. Gentlemen, please come on up. If you'll introduce yourself.
How's everybody doing? My name is Deshaun Daly. Thank you for your time. I wrote down something because I seen what happened last month. Sorry I couldn't make it. But I wanted to let everybody know here, this is not a David and Goliath story. This is a David and David story. This is a self-funded project through my self-directed 401k. I'm actually just a small-time investor. But let me read what I wanted to say to you guys. So thanks to everyone in the committee for your time today, and the neighbors that was at 1225 and 1234 West Lafayette for speaking so openly. I've consistently listened closely to every concern: parking, rodents, trash, short-term leases, rising rents, and the history with absentee developers. And I want everybody here to know that I take that very seriously. My intention with 1224 West Lafayette is to restore a vacant property that I've owned for over 2 years now and put it back into responsible, long-term use. I understand that the neighborhood preference is for single-family homes, but this house is 7 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. I don't know if anyone here has kids or even lives in America, right? But it's very expensive, and most people don't need that much space anymore. I understand at one point in time there were large families, but I'll be honest with you guys, and everyone probably here knows, it's very expensive, and families tend to be smaller, right? So I just want everyone to know that the real choice is often between vacancy or responsible, well-managed multifamily housing that meets today's affordability needs. I also want to directly address concerns tied to past developers. Not an absentee owner, I'm hands-on, reachable, and accountable for my properties. This includes clear trash management plans, rodent control, educating tenants about trash day and recycling rules, providing contact information, and taking responsibility rather than expecting the city to solve my issues. Regarding the types of tenants and short leases, my plan is to maintain stable, long-term renters who fit the character of the block. There's a bus right out front, school not too far, park across the street, and I believe that people don't necessarily need to park directly in front because their bus literally stops right in front of 1224 West Lafayette. I want everyone to know that regarding the types of tenants, like I said, my plan is to have stable long-term renters who fit the character. I want to create a safe and well-kept housing that supports stability and affordability. I recognize that the neighborhood faces real challenges, illegal dumping, food desert conditions, parking strain, and I'm committed to being part of that solution, not adding to the problem. I appreciate the honesty shared with everyone who spoke today, and I welcome continued dialogue to the committee and to Ms. Catherine to ensure that 1224 will not become an issue, but will be a positive asset to the neighborhood. That's all I have for everyone.
Thank you, sir. Are there questions for the gentleman? Mr. McCoach?
It's really tough to be painted in the same color as people who are not responsible. And so it's great that you're here, actually, because as much as we can do to understand your commitment to being a good manager, I think that's really important for this panel. And so I found myself wondering, you will be the developer, will you also be the manager of the property?
Yes, Doc, I will be.
Okay. And in that context, you're the guy, like it or not, that's responsible for picking up the trash, right?
Of course.
And, whatever, repairs and things. It seems like some kind of agreement between you and the homeowner, your neighbor, might be useful. And a lot of times we do these memorandums that explain, I'm the owner, I agree to be responsible for such and such. And, and that way at least there's a clear record of agreements and understandings. It might be something you consider. The other indicator, besides your personal reputation, and I think it's probably very good, I have no reason to think otherwise, the other indicator of quality is going to be your investment in the property. And a lot of times I see folks who come in and frankly, they're underfunded. And so is there any way that you could give us confidence that you've got the resources to do a 3-unit apartment with new kitchens, new bathrooms? I mean, we're talking, I can't see doing a quality job for less than $150,000.
I agree with you, though.
Okay.
So, can I come over to you? Because I would like to show you.
Sure, here, come on over. And I have a councilman here to.
Yep. This is how much I have to invest.
There you
in.
go. Yeah, I mean, that's and for the record, there appears to be a well-funded project here. Because if you have the resources and you're committed to the community, then I think those are good indicators for this committee.
So I feel like I addressed your second concern by showing you what was on my phone.
Yes.
My first concern that you have is that I'm open to exchanging numbers with you, Catherine, and you can reach out to me, my personal cell phone.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
There you go. Yep. One last thing I've noted, sitting on the commission for a long, long time, is the tendency for us as a commission to kick the can over to enforcement. And there's no one here at the table who's going to say enforcement is awesome because it's kind of, And so I think it is important to have you here. I'm glad that you invited the developer because
I'm impressed that you calling me a developer.
Well, okay. You will be.
Yeah.
Because I think it gets past this issue of saying, oh, it's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
It's your problem to work out with your neighbors.
Yep.
And that's sort of where this stands. So thanks very much. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Doug. Anybody got any more questions for me?
Are there other questions? Councilman, please.
Good afternoon. Not so much of a question, but a response and a comment to both. I really appreciate hearing the neighborhood perspective. Again, we understand the frustration as well. And part of the reason why I introduced this bill, for some of the same reasons you mentioned, right, that we do understand that family sizes have been smaller. We're talking about large structures. But the trade-off between a vacant property and one that's occupied but done responsibly. So I think that's the key we're all talking about, is things being done responsibly. Appreciate the suggestion in terms of the constant communication and MOUs and doing more of that. I know you'll be watching, and I know I'll be hearing from you. So again, I appreciate the investment, but also thanks for the question too about the resources, because we have a lot of challenges as it relates to that. So again, I'm feeling more comfortable that there's been this communication.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there other questions from members of the commission for the applicant? Or any, yes, oh, sorry, Mr. Tiso, there's someone online, so please unmute that person.
Yep, we have Rashad Henderson, and the unmute should come your way. You'll have to unmute from your end so we can hear you.
Good morning. I just wanted to come on here in support of multi-unit families. I understand that a lot of senior people who live in the community are against it, but I myself am an investor in Holland Park and also in the 21217 zip code. And some of the places where I invest, no one has touched a property in 40 years. There are properties in Holland Park that the owners have not touched themselves forever. So it's kind of like they're always against outside investors, but honestly, I think education is the key. And I even proposed to the Holland Park, Community Association that I'd be willing to give classes to the members who want to be educated. I even wrote an ebook about real estate and rehab, and so that they could educate themselves. If the young lady in the back knew that now her property could be worth $400,000 and now she has $400,000 in equity, she could take a HELOC and buy some of these properties herself. I was the realtor who sold Mr. Daly this property. It was on the market. She could have bought it. She didn't. So what I'm saying is, I think education is the key, and I'm doing great work. I'm a realtor, and I see a lot of shabby work done, and she can't say that my work is not quality. If she wants to come to any of our properties, feel free. If she went inside 1915 North Payson, she would see the quality. The people around there are so happy that someone is deciding to do something in their neighborhood. So I just think a lot of, I'm just in favor of development in general. And like I said, we're not getting city funding. We're not a non-for-profit. We are people who are using our own hard-earned money and wanting to invest in Baltimore City, where the people in Baltimore City don't even want to invest in Baltimore City. So I just think education is the key, and I'm willing to give classes to educate some of these people and let them know the value that their properties now have, where if we didn't come, they wouldn't have any equity. They wouldn't have any value. So she sees it as, oh, my taxes are going higher, but actually they're not, because they aren't, but her property is worth $200,000, $300,000 more just because we are coming and fixing up the neighborhood. That's all I have to say. I am in support of it. And I think there are a bunch of investors that I have that are also investing in Holland Park, and we all are in favor of it. But I think it's just a communication key and a misinformation thing, and I just think education is the key. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else, Mr. Tiso? Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? If not, is there a motion from the commission?
I'd like to move staff recommendation.
It's been moved to adopt the staff recommendation, which is to adopt the findings in the report and to approve them. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Anybody wish to say anything more? Okay. If not, we'll move to a vote. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Tiso.
Robin Allen.
I was initially going to vote for disapproval, but I'm hoping that the developer, I am going to call you a developer too, is true to his word. I'm going to trust that you are, and will work with the resident here, because I know how very important it is. I'm familiar with that community, how very important it is that the owners and the renters are dedicated to the upkeep of that very historic community. So I will say approve.
Thank you. John Bullock,
Approved.
Christine Griffin,
Approve.
Talib Horn,
Approve.
Claudia Jolin,
Approve.
Doug McCoach,
Approved.
Jane Lewis,
Approve.
Eric Stevenson,
Abstain.
and John Laria.
Approve. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
everyone. Appreciate you. Good luck.
Okay, that concludes the agenda. Are there any other items for us, Mr. Tiso? Mr. Director? Hearing none, motion to adjourn would be in order. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Stand adjourned. Thank you very much.